meeting of the Evanston Preservation Commission. Before we move on to approve a suspension of the rules, there's been one legal change. I guess it's the Illinois legislature has passed a statute requiring that all votes at electronic meetings be on a roll call basis. So I guess I or Carlos or Scott, I'll call each of your names and have to record each of your votes separately. And my understanding is that the city attorney's informed that has to apply to even procedural votes. So to start with, if somebody could move that to waive meeting rules and allow members and the public to participate electronically or by telephone.
I move we suspend the rules and allow for an electronic meeting.
Okay, and a second?
Second.
Commissioner Hacker, second. In favor, Commissioner Idle?
Aye.
Commissioner Hacker? Commissioner Hacker?
Aye.
Commissioner Reinhold?
Aye.
Commissioner Bodan?
Aye.
Commissioner Dudnick?
Aye.
Commissioner Sullivan?
Aye.
And I'll vote aye. Okay, so for people participating in this hearing other than commissioners, generally speaking, what we'll do is have a representative of the applicant identify themselves, their relationship to the applicant, and present their application. Then we'll have the commissioners can ask questions of the applicant. We'll give any member of the public who's here to speak about a particular matter an opportunity to speak, again, after identifying themselves. And then there'll be any final discussion and a vote on the matter. So the first matter is 1204 Sherman Avenue. I think I saw the applicants here on my screen. Judy Ashworth and Akeem here to speak.
And Jim Coachella is presenting on our behalf.
Hi there. So forgive me, this is my first time. Would you like to know the proposed windows? How does one present in these meetings?
You should show us the key features of the application in the packet. Scott, you'll have to move the actual pages, right?
Yes, and is it visible on the screen now?
Yeah, the agenda is
yes,
visible.
it is.
The agenda's there.
Okay, great. Let me get that back.
So you should describe the work sufficiently so we can understand it, and then to the extent you need Scott to change the pages to move through the application, just please ask him to.
Okay, so we're proposing to do a pocket or for replacement. Several different companies, different contractors call them different things. Window replacement. Everywhere that we propose to replace a window on the first and second floors. What that entails is removing, this is a good picture. If you look closely at the windows, they're actually storm windows, and then around is aluminum cladding. The interior, the idea behind a pocket is you remove as little material as possible, and you get a nice flat surface to then affix the new replacement window. So what comes off, of course, is the storm window and that aluminum cladding. And then the two sashes, the stop in the middle and the outside, the parting stop and the exterior stop. And that's it. The counterweights come out, the pockets are filled with insulation, and the whole new window goes in. Now on the exterior, There are, we should have, some of the windows are in some serious disrepairs, so we'll probably have this option to keep the aluminum cladding off. And that way it preserves whatever original or, older wood is underneath. A couple of the pictures, if we may skip around for a second, a couple of the pictures show a black trim, and that actually might be, so right there, yeah. The window, both those first 4 windows show a black trim that might be present underneath that aluminum cladding elsewhere. That may or may not be historic, but it's definitely more historic and older and more original than the aluminum cladding that's there now. So we will most likely have the option of inserting the replacement window and keeping that exterior aluminum cladding off to make it look as historic as possible. And I even have a, there's another side of the house where there's the cladding around the trim. And I did prepare a picture of what, so this is a good picture of the storm windows and the aluminum cladding that would come off. And same there. And there's an example of the black wood that could be present underneath all that white cladding, and that could potentially be definitely more historic than the aluminum cladding. Could indeed be the original. And that's the kitchen window. That actually, do you mind going back one? This one was actually a replacement window. This is the only window that's not original. And forgive me, I didn't get the history on this exact window, whether it was replaced during the current owner's tenure there or not, but this is an example of what a replacement window with that stop capping could look like, where we don't have to wrap the entire exterior frame with, an ahistoric material. And that's an example of a wood-clad window, corner section. So it is indeed, our window, one of the things we pride ourselves on at Pella specifically is our wood windows are almost entirely wood. We definitely treat it. We have a specific treatment process that treats against, of course, water and rot, but in addition, mold, mildew, and bugs. And then there's just a thin layer of aluminum cladding on the outside to make it more maintenance-free and more weather-resistant. And then here I attempted to do side-by-side, somewhat side-by-side comparisons. So I don't know if you have the ability to do a two-page view side-by-side. If you do, it will show the existing and the proposed side-by-side. The most noticeable difference with pocket install is a slight loss, and you can see from the measurements, is a slight loss of visible glass. And these are just the existing and the proposed replacement side by side, one after another. And this is the proposed contract should we be approved. But yeah, so and the Architect Series window is, I dare say, the most historic window on the market. So if although there are no grills, the OG profile is preserved around the edge of the glass, inside and out. It is most certainly present inside. and the attention to detail with the bottom rail, the part where the handle attaches, where any handle, whether it's a replacement window or an original window, the bottom rail is thicker than the two sides of the top on the bottom sash. Proportions are maintained. Even on the inside, we can use spoon lock hardware to mimic what could potentially have been there originally. Is there anything else in particular I should speak to?
Do any commissioners have questions?
Hi. I really don't, I never heard that term stopgap. Is that what you're saying, that it's covering the wood or what? What's stop?
May I attempt to share my screen, and is that going to work? Because I put together a picture, almost a side-by-side picture of. So normally we so it's telling me I can't share it while the other person's sharing it. So I don't know if I should email or someone really quickly. Let's see. Okay, perfect. So let's see. So this picture shows, and let me see if I can zoom in. Mine's a touchscreen computer. As I grow it, is this real time? Are you seeing the pictures enlarged too?
No, not so far.
I think you're sharing a different screen. We only see the Explorer view.
Oh, it says I'm sharing. Let me stop sharing.
You're sharing, but that's your Explorer view only.
Okay.
The picture.
Let me. Now am I sharing something?
Yes.
Okay. So here, let me zoom in. So these were the original windows right here and right here. You can even tell, you can see the grills on the original interior windows there. You can tell these are storm windows. And then same here on this side, on this set of windows here. But then down here are the stop-capped windows. Normally, what we do on an install is all that green cedar around the windows is original. What we normally do is I shouldn't say normally, we can obviously stop cap, it's a thing. So what we do, I'd say 70% of the time, is we cover all of that wood in some kind of aluminum trim. Usually when homeowners, in a normal circumstance, not necessarily, a historic district, but under normal circumstance, homeowners just want the entire exterior to be maintenance free. So that's why we cover, the trim and the window with that aluminum clad. But in certain instances, like this one, you can see, I'm going to scroll down one more time, you can see that the green trim around the window, we've preserved. Of course, there's no storm window there anymore, but we've preserved that green trim by just putting the window right where the sashes were, right where the storm window was. And then there's just a very, very, very thin piece of trim that covers the gap from the new replacement window to the existing trim. And what I'm thinking is that the reason why I even proposed this, or even mentioned this, is because there's a decent chance that what is underneath the aluminum cladding at Sherman is that black trim that you saw in a couple of the windows, or some kind of wood trim there. So the final install would look something like this when we do that stop capping.
Great. Are there any other questions? Is there any member of the public who's here to speak to this application? Any other discussion by commissioners? Commissioner Hacker?
Yeah, I'm just wondering if when you remove so some of those windows, that white is aluminum, it was a little hard to see. Is it already there? Some of the aluminum, where you see the white trim, was that wood, or it's a little hard to see.
That
Is that-
was the aluminum cladding.
Okay,
So
so
that's why
when
I'm
they,
thinking when you remove that, that'll be the
yeah,
black.
so would the owners agree that if you remove that and you need to replace some of the wood trim, could that be replaced? I mean, it wouldn't be by the window installer, it would be by the homeowner, so that you get wood, because it's a pretty wide wood trim around the window and it is a landmark building. So would that be something that the owners would do?
Are you asking me just in general, or?
No,
are you
I was
asking-
just asking the owners.
If that's possible, we don't want aluminum cladding around the windows. We don't like that at all. So if we could get it close to original, that's our goal. So if that's what we would need to do and it's possible, we would definitely commit to doing that.
I mean, that's something that I would recommend. You won't know till you see the shape of it, just so that, you have, it's a pretty wide wood trim, where it looks, if it was wood, obviously, but it's pretty wide. So that would just be my recommendation.
Yeah,
We
certainly.
definitely would love to do that if that's prevents aluminum clad around it like now.
Okay, is there any other discussion?
No.
Julie, do you want to include that in a motion? Do you think it's necessary to include that in the motion, or your recommendation?
I would recommend it in the motion, but
Okay.
I don't know how, what the other commissioners want to do. I mean, as a recommendation, it means that if you take off the aluminum and it's in really bad shape and you didn't want to spend the money to repair it, then it's just a recommendation so you could cover it back up. If it was part of the motion, not as a recommendation, then you would need to replace it in kind. So I'm asking the other commissioners, if we structure the,
I didn't understand the response from the owners. I got the feeling that they wanted it all removed and have just the wood exposed. Was that correct?
No, if the wood underneath is there but is rotted and needs replacement, we would replace it before just saying, okay, let's cover it with aluminum clad again and have it look like it does now.
so are you okay if we make the are you okay if we put it, if when I cite this, that I'm saying that you're going to replace, that it will either be, that the wood trim will remain or be replaced in kind? Are you okay with that?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay.
All right, why don't you make the motion then?
All right. I make a motion that we issue a certificate of appropriateness to 1204 Sherman Avenue, which is a landmark building, to replace all the wood double hung windows with pellet-clad aluminum wood windows. Their replacement, calling them replacement windows. The trim will be either remain as wood trim or be replaced in kind. And I guess we're replacing the basement windows with fixed and sliding windows. We didn't see that, but applicable standards are alteration 1 through 10.
Second?
Second.
I think Elliot was the one I saw. All right, so then we have to do the commissioner by commissioner vote. Commissioner Idle,
Aye.
Commissioner Hacker,
Aye.
Commissioner Reinhold,
Aye.
Commissioner Bodan. Beth,
He's muted.
I think you're muted, Beth. We can't hear you when you're unmuted, but I'll test. She said yes. Commissioner Dudnick,
Aye.
Commissioner Sullivan,
Aye.
and I'll vote aye. Okay, so it's unanimously in favor. Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you. Thank you very much. Have a good evening.
Okay.
The
Thank-
second matter is 2030 Maple Avenue, which is again a landmark home.
All right, I can speak to that. My name is Denny Burke. I'm from Tom Betts Dilly Architects and speaking on behalf of the homeowner. At 2030 Maple, as you mentioned, it's a landmark home from late 1800s. We propose to remove an existing shed roof from the rear of the house and with views from the alley and replace it with a 1.5-story wood frame addition. In addition to removing the existing 1-story space, we're proposing to extend the back of the house 4 feet to provide a little bit more space for the kitchen. So if you can scroll ahead one more page here. And again, one more. Sorry, final one, and that's the first floor plan. So you can see with our marks there, we have 1.5-story, which is a renovation, but a gut rehab where we're keeping the first floor foundation, building up a 1.5-story floor. And then on the west of the new full addition portion, there is an existing sunroom that's on a crawl space foundation that will be lowered to full basement depth. And then we are extending an extra 4 feet beyond the current footprint of the house to incorporate that into the kitchen. Above will be storage and closet for the living spaces on the second floor. And then in addition to this, we're proposing a new deck off to the south of the house, access from the kitchen to replace an existing deck. So if you go to the south elevation, you'll see that. And similarly, we're proposing solar panels on the south facade, south sloping roof of the new addition. So there you can see the solar panels and the deck to the south. And we have reason to believe, and the photos will show later, that the deck portion would be visible from both the sidewalk, street, primary street, and alley. You know, not just from the alley right of way. So yeah, the final 3D views here of existing and proposed, front, rear from the alley, context photos, and then we go into solar specific photos in a section. So the siding is planned to be LP smart siding, lap smooth. We'll match the exposure of the existing house. It's fluctuates between 2 7/8 and 3 inches. We are meeting at inside corners, so we have reason to believe that it will be able to match relatively well, and we're keeping all of the banding. The band trim at the window head will incorporate all our new windows. The shake will be a hardy shake, perfection line. That panel that will go in, all trim will at the moment be cedar, although the contractor has mentioned they might want to use boral siding, boral trim, because it is rot resistant for longevity. All deck materials will be cedar, painted to match the existing front porch. And then our windows are going to be Marvin Elevate in a casement style. Although the house is majority double hung, there are some casements on the second floor. All of the windows in the addition renovation portion are slated to be casement with simulated divided lights. And those would be, matching white on the exterior and then wood stained interior. Solar panels would be, at the moment, Panasonic HIT panels, although we have not finalized a solar provider for the project as of yet, but of the providers we have reached out to, that is the panel that everyone seems to be using at the moment. So I think that's everything I wanted to cover right off the bat. I welcome any questions.
So it sounds like for the solar panels that you don't have detailed drawings because it's still more just a concept at this point.
Correct. Yeah, we've reached out to solar providers for estimates and quotes to understand what panel they would recommend and how many can fit. And so that's what's shown on our drawings at the moment. So we can fit 12 panels. That's what we're proposing as the max array size at this moment. But we don't have final details or what the racking system would be in specific at this moment.
Carlos, as people have been doing solar panels like to the rear of the house where it doesn't come to the commission, are you looking at the details of installation? Is that something you do administratively?
You're muted.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, so only when the solar panels are not visible from the street, I have a review administratively, and I do ask for the specifications for the solar panels and the racking system. But again, you know, if it's not visible, if it doesn't affect the house itself, it's not necessarily the same if we were reviewing something that's visible. The last version of this would be a garage that was on the alley, and it was facing east. All the panels were facing east on top of the garage roof.
Can I ask for a clarification? We're now saying if the solar panels are not seen from the street, then it's done administratively, even though there may be a public way that we normally do worry about. So have I missed something here?
That's
Yeah,
correct, because that's correct, because the alley is a public way, but it's not affecting the front elevation.
I actually,
That
I
was
don't know. I don't think that's, I'm sorry, since we wrote the guidelines, I never knew that. So now I'm very confused because Aleka, you might want to weigh in. I don't, because I'm not seeing you on this, but I basically, if anything is observable from a public way, then, you know, it's like, then it would come before, unless, you know, it would come before the commission or be reviewed administratively, but it wouldn't just automatically go. When did we decide that? I'm sorry.
There was
Commissioners?
I didn't.
there was if you recall, it was an citizen who came to the commission at least a couple of sessions when he was making an argument that animals needed to go in front of the commission. And at the end, the commission agreed that if you cannot see the solar panels from the street, that would be the type of application that staff could approve. Now, if staff decides that there's a problem, staff can always bring it to the commission for the commission to review and approve. There was a lengthy discussion about that, maybe about a year ago now. And this is before the current guidelines being proposed.
Okay. I don't, Alaka, can you just,
So we're saying if the, I didn't follow all of that. So we're saying if solar panels are on kind of a secondary part of the structure and not visible from the street, then they can be administratively approved?
Correct. Not in the current guidelines, but that was the policy that we have before the current guidelines were in the works.
okay, so right now, can I just, I'm sorry that we have to spend a little time just clarifying this. It's because we're in the process of we have drafts of guidelines. So I'm sorry that we have to take up a little time on
That's
this.
fine. Yeah.
But I would say that the current guidelines as written and their draft do not, they basically, you know, whether or not this would be approved, which it probably would be given our current guidelines, it does not suggest that they just go to be administratively reviewed. It says, you know, there's it does say that, you know, we might work in that way or that fashion, but it certainly, it doesn't say that, right? Correct, Aleka? I just want to go back. So my question is, it seems like we could review this project, but I would just say that since I don't know, I might need somebody to weigh in on this because that's not what the guidelines say right now.
And at issue right now is the fact that we don't have final information on the solar that's going on the house?
Right. I mean, I was suggesting that because it's on the rear of the house and has limited visibility, that'd be appropriate for administrative review. But I do think there should be more review. I mean, what's been presented with the application is, again, just a concept and not actual plans. And I do think that even if we approve, there should be another step, which I think in this case could be administrative.
I would so in this, I guess maybe it should be a case-by-case basis, but in this example, we have it is on a secondary structure that's not visible from the primary elevation. We don't have final details, but if the final details were in line with our draft guidelines and the things that we normally approve, I'd be okay with them just coming back with the final details on the solar in the current location and Carlos administratively approving it because of the location and the planned layout. It looks very straightforward.
Also, the way it's drawn and the way the draft guidelines read, as long as it's essentially flush with the surface of the roof and in line with it, then it's apparently an acceptable use without going through what we would probably do on the other side or at the front of the building. So it's probably consistent even as drawn with those draft guidelines. We just don't know, as you said, we just don't know enough about what's being installed.
Yeah, I mean, I think that, oh, go ahead.
Do you mind if I jump in a second? I'm Tom Bassatilli, the architect. And I was on the Oak Park Preservation Commission, the chair for the last few years. That ended about 5 years ago, and we were rewriting our guidelines too. So I understand what you're going through. And we were really focused on the reversibility and, you know, trying to keep them out of the street view, et cetera. So, but in this case, I just wanted to say, as when you're thinking about the solar aspect, what normally happens with our projects where we involve solar is that we specify kind of the output that we need and the layout on the roof. So in this case, it's parallel to the roof, but we leave a lot of the specifications up to the solar provider. It's kind of like a design build. And so we don't wind up typically drawing the standoffs and the racking system and everything. They're almost always exactly the same, which is it's standing about 6 inches off the roof and it's parallel to the roof because they're just little standoffs in a horizontal rail and clips. Unless we're doing a metal roof in which we can clip right onto the standing seam. In this case, we have shingles, so it's the standoff. Anyway, we could definitely bring you the solar installer's bid information, but we would typically not have it in even in our working drawings. So it's just, I guess, something to think about when we're thinking about approval process.
Right. I mean, what we've asked in the guidelines, just, and we've also looked at the Oak Park guidelines, we've just asked in terms of the presentation of, looking, understanding what color they are, basically, like if where they are based on we can see on this where they are, but on a site plan, we've asked, and there's, basically keeping them off the front facade. So there's things we've asked for that aren't as specific, but so I would agree that this case would probably just move through, and that if we wanted some more details, they could go to Carlos administratively. I just want to make sure that within our guidelines, it does not just say that everything that is on the rear facade is just going to go to the administration. I'm just saying, it's a case by case. So I just want to be clear about that issue. So if we, I think which is above and beyond this project, but so I'm just suggesting that gets to be more carefully looked at. But I would agree that I would move this project along with the solar panels in that location, so.
Okay, maybe we should come back to that issue when at the end when we're talking about your solar guidelines, because I've observed around Evanston a number of projects, the rear facade that actually are visible from the street that I'm not sure people are doing without permits or what. Okay, is there any public comment on this project? Is there any more comment from commissioners or a discussion?
Yeah, one other question I wanted to ask the designer. First, thanks for the presentation. This is very clear, and on the whole, I think it's a very compatible addition. The one thing I noticed is that on the addition, all of the windows, or the large windows anyway, have divided lights and Muntin grills.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't really look like any of the existing windows on the house have divided lights, and I wondered if you wanted to comment on your intent of that design decision.
So yeah, you're right. If you want to flip back, whoever's presenting, about 5-6 sheets. Actually, this works. That's fine. Let me just move my viewer here. Okay, so yeah, we have put simulated divided lights on these this west facade, and then also on the door leading out to the south from kitchen to deck. The thought there was to give a little bit more texture. Obviously, we do have double hung with no divided lights in the remainder of the house. All other windows will be casement, so a large, visible glass pane. But while we do have the lights divided into an operable and a fixed sash, here, for instance, on the west, we have a fixed lower and then an operable upper. To make up that tall unit, the thought was just that little bit of extra texture kind of can break down the scale as it relates to the backyard, because we are encroaching a little bit more into the backyard. We do, there is still, however, room to get back from the house and have a nice vantage point of it, but we thought it was a little bit more accessible from a scale standpoint with the simulated divided light versus an overly large sash. So that's where that design detail came from.
That kind of mirroring the divided lights that were in that sunroom porch that were there. We think that's I don't know. We didn't get a date on that, did he? Really? We were thinking.
Sorry, Tom, it just cut out there.
We didn't get a date on the sunroom windows, did we? We're thinking like 1940s.
Yeah, I don't think the sunroom's original, but it's a contributing piece at the moment, I would say. Yeah. So yeah, if you do go to the existing photos, which is I think one page down, maybe page 18, I believe. There you go. So that is, you do see the divided light windows there of the sunroom, those 3 large sashes. That is the current view. When you're within the kitchen looking out to the backyard, you look through those divided lights. And then similarly, there's a grilled door coming from the kitchen onto the existing deck that you can see in the bottom right-hand corner there.
So it seemed we could kind of make the argument either way, but we felt it was a sort of a lighter and more kind of graceful sense to the fenestration, and they could leave curtains out and still feel kind of private. So, I mean, that was what drove the decision.
Okay. Thank you. That's good.
Good answer. Any other questions? Would someone like to make a motion to approve? Ken, do you want to make a motion since you asked a good question?
Sure, I'll try. We're the synopsis from the solar panel, we left it that if it's going to change substantially from these drawings, they'll review it administratively. Was that the conclusion?
I think the detailed specifications would regardless be subject to administrative approval.
Okay, got it. So I make a motion to issue a certificate of appropriateness for the project at 2030 Maple Avenue, renovating the west one-story wing of the house with a new addition and new configuration, new windows and doors, new deck, and all the rest shown in the drawings. The solar panels are a concept only at this point, and the final details will be reviewed with staff. Applicable standards for construction 1 through 5, 7, 8, 10, 11, 12, 14, and 15 apply, and standards for demolition 1 through 6 apply.
Is there a second?
Second.
I heard Elliot second. Taking a roll call vote, Commissioner Idle,
Aye.
Commissioner Hacker,
Aye.
Commissioner Reinhold,
Aye.
Commissioner Bodin,
Aye.
Commissioner Dudnick,
Aye.
Commissioner Sullivan,
Aye.
and I'm in favor too, so it's unanimous.
Great.
So thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
The next matter is 1207 Judson Avenue, which is again a landmark house in the Lakeshore Historic District.
Hey, everybody. Thanks for your time. This is Mark Marinacci speaking. I'm a little embarrassed. I'm just the homeowner. So certainly far from an expert, just a liberal arts major, but a lifelong Evanstonian. We took a pretty fair amount of hail damage in April, probably like a lot of you, and are now looking to replace both our roof and our siding. The roof is a pretty simple swap out, current product for similar product. I think the siding is really the question. This is a beautiful old home, and I grew up painting these homes every summer. But somehow or another, well before there were standards, it was wrapped in aluminum. And the aluminum is, it's faded. It's not super aesthetically pleasing in my opinion. The long and the short of it is we propose to remove the aluminum, remove whatever wood is under the aluminum, given that it's probably in poor condition and tinkering with it will further damage it, and then replace it with hardy board. Greg Bednarski from the Windows and Siding Group is also on the line if there's additional questions around the details about the proposal. But Scott, I think, if we were to walk through different elements of this, would be happy to the best of my ability, of course, answer any questions you guys have. I think this drawing is probably what you guys want to focus on. And again, this is a project under duress. It's not an aspirational thing, but it's certainly an opportunity to make this little block of Judson and this specific house look a little bit nicer. So we appreciate your consideration.
Okay, any questions?
I have a quick question. So in terms of the existing trim around the windows in the front side, that's wood, and is that going to be staying, and you're just going to take off the aluminum siding? And do you know if you're going to, and then you're going to replace it, or you're taking off, is there wood siding on, do you know what's underneath it? Is there wood siding under it? And then
all of the windows are cased and wrapped in aluminum. So it's unclear exactly what's there or what the condition of it is. The idea would be that as we pull that off, we would also replace that with hardy to frame out all the windows. So the hardy would go in both as the siding and then around all of the windows that you see here. Save at the bottom, that little, I'm not sure what the technical term is, but the little turret, the little bay window, in that corner there would be, cedar shake under those windows.
Yeah, it's just some of the trim, I think, I can't quite tell, but above the half round window, is that what it is? Is that a profile? That's not, you wouldn't replace that with hardy board profile. Is that, are these, I can't tell what the trim is, so it looks like it's profiled though, so it's probably just wood profiled piece, and you would just replace that in kind. I think I'm asking you if you're going to replace not the aluminum, because do you see what I'm talking about? I just don't know. At the top,
Not yet. I'm trying to follow though.
Gambrel roof, right above the central window. So that trim piece, that looks like it's wood, and it has a profile, but I can't tell. Is it?
I see. Everything that you see up there in white trim is essentially aluminum that's been cut and then kind of awkwardly pasted over whatever beauty is behind it. So as we pull that back, Greg and the team at the Windows and Siding Group had thought about what could we do there that would look nice, that would look pleasing. But I assure you what's there now is
it's aluminum.
Correct, 100%.
Scott, can you back up 2 pages? So this might be the only place there's actual wood trim, because I'm assuming like the kind of decorative columns here and at the second floor, and then the kind of dentelated curved cornice piece over that.
Correct.
Must be wood, right?
That's wood, and all that's been restored and painted to the the best of our ability.
Okay, so that all will stay.
Correct. That's not being impacted.
Any more questions?
No, I think it looks a lot better with the hardy. I know this came up, I think Scott and Carlos and I sort of, I don't remember if Ken as well did a sort of review of this back, 2 months ago, when it was being tossed around as to what their options were, because the aluminum was already something they could have replaced. And I think it does work with the hardy board. And I think it'll be much better than the aluminum long run as well.
Yeah.
Greg is still, somebody's got to unmute Greg. I think he keeps trying to say something there. But maybe not. I think some of those details really are going to be pretty difficult if they're really in aluminum and now going to hardy board. I'm not sure how they're going to bend some of those. But I think they're going to, hopefully the contractor will speak to us. I can see him, but he's inaudible.
So Greg, I think you're on mute, and the question directed to you is likely about the detail on the 3rd floor and the roof there, how we would address that with potentially wood rather than hardy. Is that a fair summary, Commissioner?
I think it was, and it's also, even when we look at this bay, there's details there as well.
It looks like Greg's not on mute and trying to speak, but it's not working.
Okay.
Now he's on mute again.
Yeah, now you're on mute. Even when you're unmuted, it doesn't work. All right, well, that didn't work. Is there any member of the public here to speak to this matter? Any other discussion?
I guess the one caveat that I'd like the homeowner to have in mind is that obviously all the aluminum siding top to bottom on this house is the same profile and the same exposure. And you might very well find, once you strip the aluminum off, that the wood siding has more variety to it originally.
Okay.
That maybe the gable is something different than the typical wood siding. And I'd encourage you to, when you're picking out the hardy board pieces, to try and match the exposures that are of the wood siding as close as you can. And don't worry about trying to match the aluminum appearance. Try to match the wood underneath as best you can.
Yeah, understood. I think fidelity to that original sort of intent is what we're shooting for.
I'm not sure you can get it much smaller, Ken. I mean, I think there was even discussion, I thought we had it about a week last time, about 6-inch versus 4-inch.
I think it goes down to like 3 or something.
Yeah, and it says in here 4, but I think Ken's right that when you take it off, you'll see what's underneath. And then you'll be matching. If you find stuff that's in good shape, you'll be matching that exposure.
I'm not sure they can get it much smaller. I don't think there's a 2 or 3.
No, I think it's 4, but 3 or 4. So, but that's what it says here, 4.
Correct.
So.
But we don't know what it is underneath is the issue. And I think that's Ken's point. I mean,
right, they'll have to do the best they can once they see what's under there.
So I have, wait, am I unmuted? So again, regarding that third floor curved, I would assume that the reason it's pieced together aluminum is they wrapped, an existing curved wood piece in aluminum. So when you take that off, I don't know if I missed some final comment on that. When you take off the little wrapped aluminum wood piece, if it's curved, you're going to try to replicate the original curve of the trim up there if it's in wood?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, happy to.
Okay.
Okay, any other discussion? Would somebody like to make a motion to approve?
I'll do it.
Okay, good.
I move that for 1207 Judson Avenue, a landmark in the Lakeshore Historic District, that we issue a certificate of appropriateness for removing the hail damaged aluminum siding and possibly the wood siding that's below it and any of the aluminum trim that exists, and replacing it with 4-inch exposure James Hardie smooth siding plus Hardie trim around windows and corners, and with fascia boards and crown fascia rake, etc. Whatever details are there to be matched using Hardie or equivalent material. It says here, by the way, that this was also for re-roofing the house, and we haven't discussed that at all.
Yeah, I made a quick mention of that, Commissioner. I think it was just simply put, it was something that I think Carlos had suggested that he administratively approve. But the contractor said, I don't want to start tinkering with one thing until I can do the whole job, which is why it's all now before you. But I think it's a simple consideration of existing roof material for replacement roof material. There's no significant change to what we're putting on the roof. So hopefully an easy one for you guys today.
Okay, I didn't know if anybody has any discussion because there wasn't any.
I don't think our approval is needed to replace in kind.
That's fine. I just didn't know if I
Correct.
could be including it in the motion. Applicable standards for alteration 1 through 10, continuing on, and demolition 1 through 6. And Carlos, you've got to change Hardie to having an E on the end on the agenda.
I'm sorry, can you repeat that?
The agenda has Hardy spelled without an E.
Okay.
I think
Second?
it's correct everywhere else.
I'll second it.
Like a second. Commissioner, we'll do a roll call vote. Commissioner Idle,
Aye.
Commissioner Hacker,
Aye.
Commissioner Reinhold,
Aye.
Commissioner Bowden,
Aye.
Commissioner Dudnick,
Aye.
Commissioner Sullivan,
Aye.
and I'm in favor. So unanimous.
Very good. Thanks all.
Thank you.
Take care.
Good luck.
Next matter, 1404 Forest Avenue.
He's missing. Oh, there he is.
I see him.
Sorry about that. My name is Scott Walker. I'm working for Javier and Mary Ellen Madrid at 1404, a neat old house that we're doing a interior renovation to, and we have found some existing windows in areas of the house, such as the sunroom and kitchen, as we've noted, that the in-swing casements will hinder use of the interior of the rooms, such as when I say the kitchen, the interior casement windows that in-swing will then be obviously knocking items off of the countertop and therefore opening into the upper cabinets. Are you able to spin that 90 degrees?
Sure.
That's the sunroom photo that you're seeing right there, that we're planning on putting a window seat all the way around. And then the south viewing photos, which would be the next page perhaps, which is the three on the right of that cluster is the kitchen windows. Right now they all are interior swing with aluminum clad glass. We like to replace them in Marvin, all wood, true divided light with just that horizontal bar is the only detail these windows have at this on the first floor, as you also see them in the family room that we are not planning on touch, which would be just to the east of that red box window. Those windows are not being proposed. Pretty simple replacement, definitely restoring them to better use and for better uses for the family in those rooms.
Do you have pictures of the windows, the replacement windows?
The replacement windows is going to be a Marvin Ultimate. This I received from my Marvin rep. That's the existing glass that are the sizes right now, and Marvin is able to replicate it pretty darn close even to the OG inside, and we will do true divided light. Mid rails, top rails. The only major difference is we'll be eliminating the aluminum storms, and the windows will crank out. We've done extensive restoration to the rest of the double hung windows, 43 of them in the house that we've replaced ballasts and brass chains and weights throughout to restore all the existing windows. These are the only windows that the Madrids are focused on because they just make the interior space unusable as we've redesigned the inside of the house.
Okay. Any questions for the applicant?
I have a question. Since the old windows were in swing, there may at some point have been a storm before the aluminum storms that are there now. Are you setting the window in any way in the same location, or is it going to be out to kind of replicate that plane?
We would like to put the new Marvin window out to the plane where the existing casing on the outside of the house will be untouched. I will design this new window to go existing casing exterior to remain, and we will install from the inside.
All right.
So there will not be, it's not an insert window. We've removed the casing on the inside, we've restored it, and we will be replacing all existing casing from the inside as well.
Thank you.
Does that answer?
Yeah.
So for the most part, I don't know, we are unaware if they ever had storms because they're not stored on the property. All we have is the aluminum triple track or fixed with just toggles. And so glass plane will be very similar.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Any public comment? Any discussion before we go to a motion? Would somebody like to make a motion to approve?
I'll do it. I move to issue a certificate of appropriateness for 1404 Forest Avenue, a landmark in the Lakeshore Historic District, for the replacement of the existing single glazed wood in-swing casement windows on the rear southwest corner of the house, with Marvin wood windows matching all design details to be outswing with insulated glass. Applicable standards include alteration 1 through 10 and demolition 1 through 6.
A second?
Second.
Elliot, second. A roll call vote. Commissioner Idle,
Aye.
Commissioner Hacker,
Aye.
Commissioner Reinhold,
Aye.
Commissioner Bodan,
Aye.
Commissioner Dudnick,
Aye.
Commissioner Sullivan,
Aye.
and I'm aye. So unanimous in favor. Thank you.
Thanks very much.
Thank you.
The next matter is 747 Michigan Avenue in the Lakeshore Historic District. And I think I saw Gary
There he is.
somewhere on the screen.
Hi, gentlemen. Can you hear me?
Yes.
All right. Scott, I assume you're driving, right? All right. So we presented this project to the commission in the months prior to our lockdown. This is the phase that we had predicted was coming shortly on the heels of that, which is the recladding of the existing sleeping porch on the back of this house. You can see the one-story screen porch, which is the project that was already approved, permitted, and we're beginning construction in the next week or so. The one-story brick note there is actually the where the sleeping porch is. If you can go to the next slide for me. You probably remember some of these. The sleeping porch is currently clad in aluminum with aluminum corner boards. The windows you see up there are simply storm windows. There's nothing behind it. Those are they're single panel triple track storm windows on that upper section. If you can go to the next slide for me. Here is an elevation of the proposed and the existing. We are going to replace all the aluminum siding and corner boards with a Dutch Cove siding. We're going to miter those around the corner. We're going to replace all of the existing double hung mutton patterned windows with casement windows with matching mutton patterns. Those align with the windows on the side of the house. We'll see that in the next slide. In the center section, oh, I'm sorry, go back to there you go. We are replicating that center window on which we base the flanking screen panels on the left and right side of the screen porch project below, with two exterior grade insulated doors leading from the sleeping porch and what will be a home office for the homeowners out onto that outdoor terrace that was approved in the last package. The other change we're proposing, there is an existing low slope asphalt shingle roof, which is lower slope than asphalt shingles should be installed. We are going to replace that with a standing seam copper roof and rework the flashing underneath that Chicago window in the attic. While that Chicago window isn't necessarily accurate, it's not part of our project, and we are optimistic that someday we'll remodel the upper floor of that and we'll change that too. But for the time being, it exists as it exists. So, next slide, please. You can see here in the existing, those double hung windows with the muttons on them, the siding and the corner boards. Now, if you can go to the next slide for me. Our alteration here raises the slope of that copper standing seam roof just enough to get it to shed water properly. You see the Dutch Cove siding. We've also dropped the sill of the the sills of the windows in the sleeping porch to align with the bottom of the stone course adjacent and continue the pattern of those windows. So proportionally, they're more in scale with the windows below in the existing masonry structure that's unchanged. And I think the next so that's the existing condition as it has been approved from this commission. It is currently under construction, so the existing condition, as you would see it today, still has the old shed porch, the shed screen porch on it. If you go to the next slide for me, that's the alteration. So you see the Dutch Cove siding with a slightly larger shadow line in it, the slightly deeper windows, and the larger windows leading onto the porch. And I believe that's the last slide we had in there. Window schedules. And the next slide. Yeah, the Plato survey. So the windows we're proposing here are to match the windows that have consistently been used to replace windows in this house, which are Pella Architect Series windows. And we'll use those consistently, along with the Pella exterior French doors.
Questions?
Yeah, hi. I have a question just about the double hung windows that you're replacing with casements. Can you just, why change the function?
We'd like to get more ventilation into that sleeping porch. We get a larger open area if we do that. And keep in mind, when I say double hung windows, those are simply storm panels. They're not true double hung windows. So we're not removing anything of historic value by doing that. They're just simple triple track windows in those openings.
Okay, and so the casement that's opening, then it's the, like, what looks like a lower and upper sash.
That's correct.
The unit that swings.
Yes, the mutton pattern and what would be the meeting rail are simulated, let's say, so that they will line in proportion from the ground. If you look carefully, you'll see that the glass is not set back on the lower sash as a double hung would be, but it's similar proportion. And the fact that these are triple tracks now, it's a very similar surface because that triple track distance is about ½ an inch, give or take, between the two panes of glass.
Okay. And the casements will be outswinging, right?
That's correct.
Yeah. Thank you.
Gary? I don't know if
yes.
Yeah, okay. Was there ever consideration, I realize you said the third floor is some later phase.
Maybe.
Of changing out that window because it's much bigger in terms of, well, the sill height seems to be lower than, you know, the ones at the dormer or anything else.
No,
So
they're the same.
Are they? Okay, it looks, I mean, of just changing that window now. So
No, we can't touch that space. It's not part of our scope.
Okay.
As much as I'd like to.
Well, no, it would have avoided doing the roof. I was just looking at it in terms of that you don't have to rebuild the roof and then you'd have the roof that you could have had as a shingle roof. I mean,
it's a nice window. I think someday it'll get changed, but in this current scope of work, it's not part of the project. So.
Okay, any other questions? Any public comment? Any further discussion by commissioners? Beth, would you like to bring a motion to approve?
Yeah, sure, I can do that. All right. All right, I'd like to make a motion to provide the certificate of appropriateness for the property at 747 Michigan Avenue in the Lakeshore Historic District, case 20 PRES 0142. It's to remove from the rear, east, north, and south elevations the existing double hung windows, lap siding, and asphalt shingle roof of existing second floor enclosed sleeping porch, and replace it with new casement windows, shiplap siding, copper sheet metal roof. We've also got 2 new doors where there are existing windows to allow access from the existing sleeping porch to the adjacent rooftop deck. The applicable standards are alterations 1 through 10 and demolition 1 through 6.
Second?
Second.
Okay, Commissioner Reinhold, second. Roll call vote, Commissioner Idle,
Aye.
Commissioner Hacker,
Aye.
Commissioner Reinhold,
Aye.
Commissioner Bowden,
Aye.
Commissioner Dudnick,
Aye.
Commissioner Sullivan,
Aye.
and I'm aye, so it's unanimous. So thank you, Gary.
Thank you very much. Have a good evening.
Thank you. 1127 Forest Avenue.
Hello, everyone.
Would you like to present your application?
Sure.
Introduce yourself first, please.
Okay, hi, I'm Julie Fisher, and this is
Jason Rosenthal.
my husband, Jason Rosenthal. I'm the homeowner and an architect, so the worst of everything combined. So we're looking to improve the rear of our home to give us access to our rear yard, which is why we moved to Evanston. I'm a lifelong Evanstonian, and we were fortunate enough to move back close to where I grew up as well. So we're looking to add, and I submitted, this is our permit set as well, so it might be a little more than was required for this presentation. So my apologies, I've never done this before here either, so it's a good learning curve. There's a lot of pages in there, so I think if you want, in summary, this is our home, and as you can see, we're not touching the front of the house, which is on Forest, and we're in the Lakeshore Historic District. We are looking to improve. Most of the windows in our house are in pretty bad shape, or we're not sure when they were replaced with vinyl replacement windows, mostly in the back. So we're pretty committed to restoring the ones in the front and leaving them as they are. They're beautiful and they're in pretty decent condition. All the chains and ballasts, and I mean, they need a lot of work, but not worth replacing. And sorry, this all started because we did have pretty substantial hail damage during that storm. So we had a lot of damage to the existing windows on the home. So we're just gonna have those, they can be done from interior. They don't need to be replaced or anything. So we're getting those taken care of. And so as we move forward, the main goal is on the rear of the house. We've had French doors that go to nowhere because there's no deck on the rear of our house. And I looked at the historic documents. There was a permit pulled, I think in 1924 for a deck back there. So we are interested in replacing the deck and then opening up the rear of the house to take a window out and add another, a sliding door so we could actually have access to this deck and to our backyard. And then to replace our garage with a new garage as well. So if you wanna, I guess we could just flip forward a couple, keep going. So this sort of gives the overview of the plan. It's really, the only area that we're touching is in the rear of the house towards the kitchen. And this is the existing first floor plan where we're looking to add a deck and a new door. Where there was a window and a new garage, and it's much clearer on the elevations. My apologies if we want to move forward to the next slide. This is the second floor, again, showing you where you can see the window tags, and I know they're small, so the elevation I think is much better to explain this. Where those tags are the existing windows. So I'm just moving you through the elevations of the home. Nothing changes on the front of the house, just showing you there's an existing porch. And then we get to the it's the fun part. It's hard just from the scale of the home to give I can't really get a full picture of any side of the house just by the way it's sited. So I did my best to explain in the red, showing you the side by side of the south elevation existing and proposed. And in summary, to make this easiest, is a lot of these are on this elevation in particular. To summarize, we're not looking to change the style of anything except for on 2.3, their existing vinyl sliding windows. I don't know when or where those were put in, and they actually don't even function. And it's the same just for future. It's in this one room and it's on the opposite side. So they're not operable. I mean, sort of, they're janky. My architectural professional term is janky. And we can't get any really good fresh air in there. And we want to replace them with wood double hung windows. All the windows we're proposing are all Marvin signature, and to match what seems to be pretty almost identical to all the other existing wood windows in the home. We are looking to do the clad in white just for durability and future. But the profiles, as you can see down below, they're really similar. Our existing windows are, I think, oddly simple for the age of the home. It's like an 1895. They're very basic and straightforward. They're actually single hung windows, to be honest with you. I don't think they don't even open from the top. They're actually single hung. So, I think the only change we're making in terms of stylistically is on the next page on the rear elevation. There are existing, and it's 2.6, well, other than the doors, but on 2.6, it's an existing vinyl casement windows that we want to replace with the new casement windows. And we want to change the swing of those, which I actually don't think I was clear in there. Just trying to, they come in right now. So it's kind of the same issue and they're also really, I actually apologize. Those are existing wood casement. I don't know. I think when I was re-editing this, it's proper on the door schedule. I'm really apologize. I'm just catching this, but I want to be honest. They're the existing in-swing casement windows. So our issue with those are a couple things. One is safety. The sill height is not very high. Regardless of whether it's my son's room or not, it's like giant, there's a weird safety concern that I'm having. I feel like it's really big. And when you do the outswing ones that are new, they don't open all the way. So that's just a personal thing. And the in-swing ones, they're just the old ones that they don't function very well. We've never really been able to open them. They're hard to open. They're painted shut, they're damaged, and they open in. So those are the major change in terms of just anything that would be different is we would like them to be your typical, but we want them to push out. We don't want to do the crank ones. We want to keep it with the latch. So they at least have more of the emotional and physical matching properties to that. I think the biggest change is on the rear of the house. As you can see where 1.4 is, we have these existing French, I'm calling them French doors, but they have no insulative or any kind of properties that that function as a door. They don't even have a proper door handle. So they really look like interior French doors. They match interior French doors that we have at our house identically. And you can feel the wind blowing through them. So they're super fun in winter. So the initial reasoning for replacing those was just it would be great to have a functioning patio door. So we thought if we had a slider, we could actually have a screen too. It's hard with the French doors to have a proper screen. So what I wanted to do was replace that with a slider, and then where the window is right next to it, add another matching slider. So, because one is sort of in the dining room, the other one would give us access from the kitchen. So we wanted to put matching sliders that would have the simulated divided light, the Marvin as well, and that would give us full access to our deck and really give us a view to the backyard that we currently actually don't really get it even from those current small doors, just by the way our house is negotiated right now. It's a little closed off right now. So we just really wanted to celebrate the yard and the beautiful tree that we have. And it's one of the main reasons why we chose this house was the remarkable yard. So for the house, that's really, it's most of the activities on the back. And just really trying to clean up and replace these windows. The other one is, just I will point out for you, 2.5 up on the, it's sort of in the middle on the second floor. That is a double hung window. And the reason why original wood one, we want to replace that. It is a really low sill height. It's in a bathroom right next to a sink. I want that to be a tempered glass, proper safety window. It keeps me up at night, the thought, it's right next to a sink in my daughter's room. And if it's not even falling out of it, if it's anyone cracks it, these are the old single pane windows, the shards, you know, when if it cracks for some reason, it's very dangerous. So it's one of the only other wood windows that I want to replace, mostly for safety. Kind of both of them are just in this safety range. I want them to function better for future. From a safety, I want it to be tempered. And that pretty much covers the window aspect and the deck part of the house. And then the rest was the garage, I believe. If we want to go, unless anyone wants to stop for questions.
Can I sit?
Hi, sure.
Hi, Julie. Could you go back to the other slide? Thanks. Okay, the sliding doors to the deck, they're okay, I'm just confused. There's two pair and they're different, like one's larger than the other one. Are they supposed to match?
Well, I was trying to enlarge the opening, to be honest with you. And where number 7 is, the smaller one, I have a column. There physically isn't enough room. I actually did some self demo. I actually could get them to be matching now. I did just realize I have more room. I got a little overzealous and there is a column there, and I did just do some exploratory demolition, occupational hazard, and I could get more room to make them match. I didn't think I could. I didn't know what was.
So when I'm looking at the one to the left, that pair, it's wider than the one to the right,
Correct.
right?
Yeah. I was trying to get.
Now you're saying you can get them both to be the same size?
Yeah, I would love to. And the reason is because if you do a 6 foot, you know, if I kept when you do a 5 foot slider, once you slide it, it's actually not that much room to
come out.
So I was like, well, maybe I could get at least one of them to be a little bit bigger. So that was sort of my goal with it. And then we have, we have these weird, we have columns on both sides, but I think I could definitely, I mean, that's absolutely something, I would love that too. I would love it if we could get them to be the same size. It would make more, obviously, even if it meant reducing the other side. I was trying to stick within the standards, just obviously from a cost standpoint, which I know isn't a priority from a aesthetic standpoint, but I would like to get them to be the same size, ideally both the same larger size, so that we can actually just have them open and have the screen, and that we have, we can open up from the front to the back. We have French doors on the front and our enclosed patio and the front deck on the front. So that is our goal. We would love to be able to open this and get some air coming through the house, which we currently just can't do.
The one on the left, as long as we're talking about it, looks like it's wider than the original opening.
Yeah, I was going to make the opening larger.
Okay. Did you think about just outswing French doors?
I did. I think the biggest issue with the outswing French doors is our deck. I mean, it's all relative. It's not a tiny deck, but when you have the deck, you know, we didn't want the deck to go out that far, but when you start swinging out these doors, and they really do eat into the only livable space back there. Oh, sorry. And then, so that was really the main area. I did think of that, because then I was like, oh, we can have a screen, but it's hard with the French doors to not eat up all that space. It's at least on the inside, interestingly, the way it is, if they fold all the way back, it's not that intrusive in our dining room. And where the one on the right is going is sort of in this odd dead space in between the cabinet and the dining room table. So they do work. If they were French in swing, you just have that really weird screen issue.
Well, no, I was going to ask you, was there a problem with in-swing? That was going to be the next question.
Yeah, I think it's just the screens are difficult on the French doors. There aren't really that many good options for them. You have the rolling, you know, The sliders are just, I mean, they're just functionally easier. So I'm just being honest. That's why we did it. And I think they look the same when they really do. I did look into it a lot. Knowing that the aesthetic is, I know, one of the biggest concerns. When they're closed, in my opinion, they look pretty similar. They look, if we're doing the divided light, they look pretty similar. I thought they looked almost identical.
Well, the other question is, these are divided light. Now, I realize that strange window that you were removing had divided light. Ken raised this issue earlier tonight. But none of the other windows on this house are divided light.
There's only one on the side. It's very strange. We have on the top floor, you can see and then they replaced vinyl ones on the third floor. I think it might be in one of the other elevations, and they're not the good divided light. They're like the snap-in sad divided light. So we could discount those all together. No, I agree, but the doors are quite, I mean, I know it's strange, but they're really pretty. So I love them. And I mean, I agree with it is strange. I don't know why it's there. It's like the door to nowhere.
Well, I guess my question is, why are you doing divided light?
Because it's what was there, and I was just trying to honor. It's historic. It's been there, I think, since forever. And so I was just trying to honor what was there, because the doors are beautiful, and it's been.
Okay, do you want to show us the garage?
Sure. It's really fun. That was the other side. These are the 3D. It actually might be beneficial to skip forward a page just to give us a better, or maybe one more. Those are the details. So this is the existing garage. I think the most important thing to point out is that I want to keep all of these windows that are in this garage right now and reuse them in the new garage. Again, this might help, Elliot, that these have the divided lights in them, and on all 4 sides. So one of the things I wanted to do, if we were able to take this garage down, was to reuse windows in the new garage. This garage, and I emailed Carlos, and or I can share a screen later. I have better images of the adjacent properties, but this garage, the only garage that's a similar scale is directly behind us. And then it's like all over the map around us, but we can get to that next. But I did love that I think this garage was 1919. And I did love that these windows might be the original. So I wanted to have a really fun summer project of refinishing them and then putting them back in one day. So maybe if we go, and then you could see too the pitch, our house has a very high pitch to it, and so do most of the other houses around it. So maybe the next one is even better before we go to so these are the elevations. It's, we were doing a 612, 20-foot, actually it's a little bit less because we have the garage. It's an 18-foot because we need the 2 feet for the chimney. So our idea was, once we opened up the view to the back of our house, you see this sort of, the garage has a perfect view from the back of our house if it's opened up. So the idea was to take that back door that was at the back of our house and also reuse that and put it as one of the major features in the garage. And we have another one in the basement that was from the inside of the house that was here. So that's what I was saying. They're like interior doors, but we don't need them these are not functional doors. So it was just the aesthetic. So to the point of the mullions in it, then we were taking the existing one that we were going to take off the back of the house, put it on the garage, and then take the other one that we have that was left here in our basement and add it as a feature, and then reuse the existing windows around this garage. But with siding, we were just going to do cedar siding with some cedar shakes at where the ridge and the pitch happens. And then we wanted to build in a fireplace because we spend so much time right in this exact area with a little fire pit in our backyard, and we just really wanted to celebrate the feel of the neighborhood and the home and make it great. I don't know if you want to go back to the 3D, I think it was 2 back might be the best way to just sort of get the feel. And then that was the deck, just sort of a context and for the home. The upper window in the back, we don't have that right now and probably don't need it. I don't have an existing one to match that, so probably will go away. I did send something just based on some comments before. I don't know if it's a shared screen or if Carlos has it, just kind of showing some snapshots of my neighbor, which has on the neighbor on the south side has a gigantic coach house, giant garage, and the one on the other side has, it looks like a really beautiful historic garage, which is significantly higher than ours. And I showed behind us as well, significantly higher pitches. So it's a real mishmash. We have a couple coach houses. There's not a real consistent look or feel to my alley or adjacent properties. It's really a wild mix.
Okay, any questions? Julie?
So I guess my only comment is, did you look at the garage door? That's new. New?
Yeah.
Garage door? Yeah. So I would just say, can you, I didn't know if you looked at, if you did vertical panels. I mean, it just I
didn't, yeah.
I just might look at that garage door
just
in terms of the style of it with the rest of the house. It just, yeah,
vertical
that's all.
Great, yeah.
Any other questions or comments? Any member of the public wish to speak on this? Any further discussion by the commission? Would someone like to make a motion to approve this project?
I have one quick question.
Sure.
I noticed the tree. Is the tree staying? Not that it's.
Oh, yes. It's the reason we bought the house.
Okay.
The deck, yeah, the deck comes
right up to the tree. Yeah. Okay. I thought so from the drawings, but I just wanted to verify.
Yeah.
Okay, Aleka, since you had the floor, would you like to make a motion to approve?
Oh my God, I hate doing motions.
It's the last one.
Okay, let me get it up in front of me. I make a motion to approve certificate of appropriateness for 1127 Forest Avenue to demolish existing detached garage, to build a new detached garage with fireplace at rear east end and new raised deck, and add a new patio door opening, replace existing vinyl windows along the back of the house with wood-clad windows matching the exterior home's windows. Applicable standards, alteration 1 through 10, construction 1 through 5, 7, 8, and 10 through 15, demolition 1 through 6.
Second?
Second.
Commissioner Reinhold seconds. Roll call vote. Commissioner Idle?
Aye.
Commissioner Hacker?
Aye.
Commissioner Reinhold?
Aye.
Commissioner Bowden?
Aye.
Commissioner Dudnick?
Aye.
Commissioner Sullivan?
Aye.
And I'm aye. So all in favor. Thank you.
Thank you all so
Thank
much.
you.
Good to see some familiar faces. Thank you.
Good evening.
Yes. What happened?
Carlos?
Yes, good evening all. I have sent 2 versions of the first one was the original draft, and then I sent the second draft 2, had some comments from Julie, and I didn't have the opportunity to send a third version, which are additional minor edits from Elliot, without changing in any substance the if draft one or draft. So I will ask respectfully if there's more of the minutes and it's edited by Julie and Elliot.
I move that we approve the minutes as amended by all parties, subject to any additional changes if anybody finds other issues.
Second.
Okay. I guess we still need a roll call vote. Commissioner Idle.
Aye.
Commissioner Hecker.
Aye.
Commissioner Reinhold.
Aye.
Commissioner Bowden.
Aye.
Commissioner Dudnick.
Aye.
Commissioner Sullivan.
Aye.
And I'm in favor.
Thank you.
Right.
Okay, so the next item is staff reports, and I included in the packet all the information that I had available at the time with all the comments that we received from the members of the working group, from Kumar. And also I sent an email with the response from Aleka and Julie to Kumar's questions. I think where we are is that there were two meetings I attended last week. On Thursday, I attended the environmental board meeting where they had the opportunity to review draft 6, and they couldn't make a motion to approve because they have the rule that they need to review it and then they can approve it. In addition to that, since we have now drafts, they didn't have the opportunity to do that. So I will assume that that will be going to them at their August meeting, and after that, they'll be able to approve or endorse those revisions. And then I attended the meeting, or I should say, I joined the meeting for the Utilities Commission on Friday the next day. They had not received the draft. There was no packet there, agenda. So although the members that were in the working group, including the chair for the Utilities Commission, discussed briefly what the status was, but they would like the other members of that commission to receive the draft. So since we have draft 7, that's what we should send to them to the next meeting. Again, I think they will look at them and then not vote for them in August, but in their September meeting. So that's where we stand now. I have not received any additional comments from a member of the commission.
Yeah, go ahead.
I was just going to say, so Carlos sent around the two documents from Julie and I. There was a lot of information in the packet from all the various comments, et cetera. We tried to go through and synthesize that. And the two things that we would have to do is respond to staff comments from Kumar and sustainability, and there were some good suggestions and comments and feedback in there, and that's where draft 7 came from with some slight changes. So I think we thought today if we could get feedback from the commission on those two documents, if anything stuck out to you on any of the changes or comments that we made in those, that's what we're looking for.
Do we have to put on the screen the draft 7 we're looking at? I know it just came out right as we started the meeting.
Can we put it up because the corrections are, I think we could just review the corrections. They're not that many.
Right.
If we can get it up, you can see.
Scott, do you have them?
Don't believe I have them readily accessible. I don't know if someone else does.
Let me see if I do. On this
Ellie,
computer.
can't see that.
Well, I waved it away too quickly.
Can you share it, Aleka?
I might be able to. Let me see if I have it on this computer. Okay, we're doing draft 7, right? Wait a
Yeah,
minute.
I have it on my screen. I don't know if I can.
Okay, here, do you want, I've got it. Do you want me to share it?
Okay.
Oops, now I have to. Apologies.
Okay,
I have to get back to Zoom. Wait a minute.
we have it here, up here. So
Oh,
just keep scrolling.
Yeah. There you go.
Okay, right there. Yeah, so the question, I think you have to look at the comments
Right.
to understand our changes. But so you can read that there were comments about, well, are you really, the solar panels are predominantly blue and black, dark blue and black. So we just changed the language there. And then we also took out on, so 2, we changed the language, and then 4, we just took it out again because we thought 2 covered it. Okay, that was the color issue. And then in 5, there was a discussion that you can read if you look at Kumar's comments about composition. And so Aleka, in her comments to him, which you should have that document too, she wrote why that was important to look at composition and what it really entailed. So we just changed this language a little bit that I think it was clearer. So maybe take a look at that. Careful attention should be paid to the grouping of solar panels into simple rectangular blocks, avoiding sawtooth patterns, as opposed to the compositionally balanced issue, which Kumar, I think, didn't quite, I don't know, he had a problem with it and maybe didn't think it was clear. And then we took the color thing out again because it was already up in 2. So that was that change. And then can we go down? Can you scroll, Beth, down? Okay, wait, yeah. Do that. Oh, yeah, so then it was number 7. And this was a good point. It was brought up that this whole issue of reversibility and what happens if we use a technology that is integral to the structure of the roof, such as solar shingles, and then it's not reversible in the same way. So we just added that last sentence because we just said in the event this occurs that we would look at it in a case-by-case basis. And I think one of the things, if you think about what this might mean, for instance, if you had a landmark house with a unusual tiled roof, and then someone was going to put solar panels on them, and there was a question of whether they would be the panels, which might be more reversible, as opposed to like ripping the whole roof off to do solar shingles. Like those things, in some instances, you might want one versus the other because of that reversibility. So we just have it in there to try to cover ourselves. And then I just stuck in on number 8 because it's that primary elevation that we are trying to avoid solar panels if at all possible. But we just stuck that in again to refer you back to 5 if it was necessary to put them on the primary elevation, since we are dealing frequently now with if it's a gable roof, front facade facing the street, that we get them on the side of the roof, which is the primary facade. So I just wanted to make sure that that came up again in someone's comment from staff. So just refer you back to 5, which basically says, if you do this, then this. And that's it, right, Aleka? I think that was it for our changes. And then Aleka did write about the Oak Park guidelines, which came up. The question was asked by Kumar about the differences. And so maybe if you guys would read that and see her replies. I think the last thing that came up out of all the comments were that we were going to be looking at, have we looked at, or have we integrated into our guidelines information coming from the solar companies, really? And the one letter we got, if you read that, which was part of the documents that Carlos sent, was basic. My interpretation was that it was sort of shutting us down. It was kind of saying, why have the guidelines? If something's reversible, it's reversible. So I don't think that's what, in reading the Oak Park guidelines, that's not what they say. So we did not find that particular letter useful, but we have reached out to 2 other companies in terms of seeing if there's any information that we could use that might be useful in evaluating, and examining the guidelines that we have. So that was the last thing, that we don't have that yet, but we've reached out to those groups. So I would say, if you guys feel comfortable with our changes to 7, if you need to think about it, but let us know.
Julie, I have a question about the comments we got. One of them was the letter from the solar company, but the other one was actually some comments to the text that made it a little bit more flexible in the language. And I don't know if you had an opportunity to review that. It was different tone than the letter from the solar installation company, whereas the other one was representing the industry. That was from the lady who said it from the industry. It was together with the other letter. But the letter, I agree with that. It had a different tone. It was more like they cited Oak Park that was not able to deny solar installations. And when I called the staff at Oak Park, they said no. That's when they explained to me, we review landmarks with this standard for review, but the rest that are not landmarks, about 3,000 properties, is advisory. I think they were referring to that, but they didn't say that in the letter. But there was some comments to the document itself that use language that have some flexibility, maybe in color.
Was that the marked up?
Yes.
Yeah, we did look at those. That's why we, that influenced some of our changes in draft 7.
Okay, because that's the response also to Kumar's question, whether or not any of the comments were considered in the.
Carlos, I just wanted.
Yeah.
Aleka, was that was all the comments that were written, the edits that were written? Oh, yeah, we did.
Comments, yeah. We went through all those and considered them.
Wait, who wrote those? We thought that was staff. Who was that? Or you? Who did all those edits on that document?
I was the, I can't remember her name, but she and I were on the phone a few times.
Was that Lisa Albrecht?
She was the one. Yes.
Oh, Oh, Aleka, I spoke to, to be transparent, I spoke to her today because Nate Kipnis told me to reach out to her since she's been doing solar panels for a long time. And I think she's on the board, the Illinois Solar Commission. And so I was talking to her because I thought Aleka and I were going to have another conversation with her, but I didn't know that those were her comments. They were good, and we took all of them into account. But I didn't realize those were her comments on that edit.
Well,
Oh, that makes sense.
She
It's
said
the LA.
she put it together by herself. I don't know, but she's kind of representing that organization.
Oh, okay. I was so confused. So, okay, great. Well, yes, we did read those, and those were very helpful, actually.
They're helpful and they're incorporated.
That's what I thought.
Yeah, they were. And
Thank you.
oops, because I didn't know. I thought she helped with the other letter. Whatever.
No, there were two gentlemen who signed that letter.
Okay.
Yeah,
So
I'm glad that was taken into account because I thought she was really very open-minded about the whole thing when I started talking to her.
No, it was very good.
Yeah.
So as to the question of the substantive differences between Oak Park's guidance and our guidelines, I mean, it seems to me that Oak Park's, it's almost a prohibition on having solar panels on the primary facade. I mean, it seems much tougher than ours in that respect.
Yeah, I felt that the way their guidelines are written is much tougher. And if they do eventually, review and approve things, I don't know, but I think they're a lot less transparent with applicants. If they are going to come in front of them and make an exception, they don't give them any guidance in those guidelines as to what they could do to make an exception. And what we really tried to do was, make these guidelines and guidance to say, okay, we realize we don't want to, completely prohibit solar panels. We want to give people right out of the box, ideas of how to, preserve and maintain the historic fabric while still trying to do solar panels and environmentally friendly things. So
I mean, the suggestion keeps being made to us by people before the commission, I think by Kumar, that we should look to Oak Park, and that the suggestion maybe we're being, more stringent than Oak Park is. And it seems
I know. It made no sense, Mark. I agree with you. If you read them, we are being more flexible. So I don't actually understand. Alek and I did not really understand the comment exactly. And so that's why she just Aleka wrote that description of how we differed, because I actually think we have made an attempt. And I also think the tone of the whole commission in reviewing solar panels, which we're seeing more and more, is we are being more flexible than we were even 6 months ago, before COVID. So I do think, I don't quite understand somehow why Oak Park was utilized in that way, and that's why Aleka wrote that. But I don't know, can I ask Carlos, we just sent that, did Kumar receive? We didn't send that to Kumar yet, right?
No.
Okay, so
well, we were talking, Julie, about,
right.
We just wrote it yesterday, and we thought rather than send it, we wanted to get feedback from the commission
right.
on whether you disagreed with anything that we said in our responses.
Right, and if you all agree with our changes and Aleka's and Aleka and our responses, then we would like those to then go disseminate to whoever, Carlos, to Kumar for his questions, and whoever, and the other groups, the other two committees. So maybe, can we get an answer from everyone tonight on those? Did you have a chance to look at them? I mean, they were on the screen, or do you need more time?
Well, I mean, I was definitely thinking, I mean, the prior email that came back that was frustrating, where he seemed to suggest they had never approved the guidelines and we were jumping the gun, came back with this pushback on why aren't you doing like Oak Park did? And so I think that we should say much more clearly that, in fact, Oak Park, I mean, we're more, I think we should say that we're being more flexible than Oak Park. I don't think it's going to be clear to him. I mean, he's already kind of misinterpreted what you did the first go around. So, so I think to the extent
have you had a chance to look at the document that is our response to his questions, Mark?
I mean, is it this number one? That's what I was reading.
Yeah, number one, Oak Park has 2 key requirements.
I'm not catching that. I mean, again, he's thrown out there that why aren't you doing like Oak Park?
You don't think it's strong enough?
Because we say the Evanston guidelines, in contrast, say when possible, it quotes it, go into more detail on what's important to preserve, and come out and concede that it is sometimes necessary to install solar panels on primary elevations and give guidance on what can be done in those cases to minimize impact. So I guess we didn't say in that sentence the Evanston guidelines are.
Okay. Why don't we just
more flexible?
Yeah, why don't we just say that? Why don't we just say that and then include the rest? And then thanks, Beth. Yeah.
So if we just say the Evanston guidelines, in contrast, are more flexible.
Yes.
And go on.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So, okay. I'll just make that.
If we make that change, can we send this to him?
Good with me.
Everybody? Do we need to take a vote or something?
I think
I think that we can send this to Mar and the rest. My advice to the commission would be continue this as draft without approving anything else. There was a lot of confusion when the commission approved them, but the board didn't have a chance to review them.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that this is moving forward. It's just going to take a little bit extra time to get according to what the other boards can do when they are ready to recommend. And I think perhaps what maybe Kumar is referring to and didn't really explain that way when maybe he's talking about the Oak Park, it might be a part that is a recommendation rather than a actual certificate of appropriateness of thousands of property. I think that what I learned from Oak Park staff is now there are 70 landmarks that they will have to have a certificate of appropriateness, but the rest is actually kind of that's what we're trying to test the company installer about that. They cannot beat solar installation. Did not about themselves. So I think that we should continue with the draft and send to Kumar and send it to the Honorable Board to the Utilities Commission as a draft so that we can have more input. The goal is to have a document that will be adopted and endorsed by the 3 bodies rather than just the commission. Right now, my opinion is that who participated at in the working group are very much in favor of this, and they are kind of talking to them in that tone that this is a thing. But particularly this is a large group. It didn't seem to kind of have the same reaction. I'm not saying they're not supportive. It's just that in twos, they had a little bit more time to review the.
Okay, you guys, I'm sorry, but I had a lot of trouble understanding Carlos.
Yeah, me too. Carlos,
So-
you're really breaking up.
Yeah.
You're breaking up.
We're breaking up, but what I understood is that basically we shouldn't like officially approve anything, but if we all agree on with that edit on these responses and this draft 7, then we just give them to them, not saying this is what we've approved, but we say, okay, here, how does this look? Look at them, let us know. And we don't go through a
I
formal
think,
approval.
yeah.
Okay, that's fine.
I think that will be, in my opinion, a more soft approach.
Okay, that's fine. That's fine. And then within hopefully the next week or so, it's good to know that one, we can say that
Her, yeah. Lisa,
from-
yeah, I have to talk to her because she told me she edited something, but I thought it was the other letter. So basically, I just will send that, but we can do that. So, but all right, so
we can say in this response too that we've incorporated Lisa
Albrecht.
Lisa Albrecht's input to these responses, and we've also reached out to a gentleman from Sunrun, but so we just for.
Did you talk to Christopher? Is that right?
We reached out to him, but we haven't heard back to set up anything yet.
Yeah, but you know what?
But I think it's huge that those comments were from Lisa.
Okay, but you know what? Can I just do something because I had that conversation with her and I emailed her? I'll just confirm, Aleka. I'll just email her and say these are what I just want to make sure because we just were like ships crossing in the night about what was going on.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
So before we send anything, we'll.
Well, I would like to, so let me just understand because I repeat what Aleka said. So Carlos, you're going to take the latest 7 and you're going to say, based on these comments, you're going to send them to the committees and you're going to send to Kumar. You're going to do that next in a softer. Sherman.
I am trying to get the two bodies to adopt this as their word there and allow the commission to administer this guideline. And I think that very close. It's just we need to be more patient.
I have a question. I thought last time it was discussed that we did have to approve it. Now, if this goes back without sort of an official approval, whatever that may mean, how does one get a final document that didn't get edited by the last person who touched the draft? I mean, when is it frozen as a single document? I mean, whether it goes to Kumar or somebody on the other committee, they can say, well, let's change some of the things that Julie and Aleka just did, and then do we get to see draft 8, or does it go off to the console? I'm really not clear on that.
I think we all get it to the point we are saying to them, okay, does this look good? Is this the one that we should all vote on and approve? And so if they want to make a change, then we have to all consider it, and we'll get it to a point where it's like, okay, here's the final thing. Is this the one that we're putting to all the commissions to approve? But instead of saying, I think Carlos is saying, instead of us saying, okay, here's the final thing, we're saying, does this look good? Is this okay if this is the final thing? It's a little softer.
But isn't there any way that
they need to have ownership too? It's not just we are the ones doing this, and we want you to endorse these. I don't think that went well, particularly with Kumar. So and he has both commissions, boards. So I'm trying to work with Kumar so that he can all be on the same page.
I don't know what he's saying.
I want to say this. I feel like all the committees, the comments were very minor. And I feel like Carlos has to deal with Kumar, and it's not like Aleka and I can. So we're going to take your lead, Carlos, because we know you have the best interest of the Preservation Commission and trying to move this along. So,
and I'll say, to be fair, I mean, Kumar's staff comments were very productive and great. And
yeah, they were.
He made some great points. I think the whole, I think it's all good. The
I agree. I mean, that's why I was saying earlier. we need to know what the other side thinks based on what's on our side. And then we heard from the industry installer, and think we have a better document because of that. So I think that send it to the community, to the environmental board, comments that they're ready to make once they receive the document. And the only comment I heard that was a little bit different, that's Carl, we talked about the green roofs, and I think we have an explanation about the way that the commission approves project that Carl was thinking a project has both solar and roof, and one of them doesn't meet the guide. You should not approve anything. And there was no, we have approved portions of projects way that it would be done on the one case by case basis.
Yeah, but I thought
fine.
that, yeah, okay.
Yeah.
So what do we
And
do?
once I get this,
Aleka, you want to add that one comment to this that Mark had, and then just give it back to Carlos?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'll add the comment and make an updated response to those questions, with those small changes. And everybody here is okay with draft 7 as it stands in terms of other people thinking about it? Okay. All right.
Just one note, with respect to the discussion we had earlier. So there's a sentence in draft 7 that says installations that may qualify for administrative approval include those that are not visible when looking at the primary elevation and so on. So I think that, I think that is what we had discussed like a year ago. You're muted, Julie.
Is that, it's like, excuse me, but did we write it in the guidelines? Is it in there? Like, oh, okay. Well, there you go.
Losing track.
Sorry.
And I think it's fine. Like that project that came today,
fine.
was fine and clearly met all of the guidelines. If something comes in on a secondary or tertiary elevation and isn't seen from the primary street,
Right. And I would just say,
all the other guidelines, I think Carlos should be able to approve that.
And I would say, Carlos, if there's something that is questionable, that it's secondary elevation, but somehow the massing, you really see it from the street and it needs to, you would just bring it before us in your wisdom. Okay.
I try to make sure that if I make a decision that might be difficult is within the realm of I always make a habit to consult with the chair and a commissioner at least. In all cases. More emphasis with solar panels.
Yeah, we can't hear you at all, Carlos.
No, he's just.
Now it's like, wow.
I hear some of it.
I think we're watching an episode of Finding Nemo, and he's below the water.
I do have a question just about.
I don't know what to do about it. Sorry.
Yeah, sorry, Carlos, your audio. But just a question about like how it's going to work with the project, like this project that just came forward tonight, where are we going to see the package that is designed by the actual solar company? And I'm asking because it looked like the arrangement that was proposed in the packet tonight, that I don't think that it had the correct setback, the fire setback from all the edges of the roof. And so I'm just curious, like now when the solar company comes up and actually makes the real arrangement to accommodate all those codes, then are they going to have to rearrange that? I don't think it'll be so nice and neat and so simple. And so will we have that, or are we saying those are the cases that, Carlos, you will always see them at least and do your administrative review, And then if the massing is not as simple and straightforward as what we saw today in the, I'll call it just the rendering, then we would see it if it gets more complicated than what we actually saw tonight.
Can you hear me better?
Yeah.
Hello? Okay. I think that it will depend on case by case, but we have to be clear about if it's not visible from and doesn't affect the front facade, can staff approve that? My understanding is yes. But if there is something that it doesn't look right, not from the technical point of view, but from the preservation point of view, I will always consult with the chair before it's sent to the commission or allow me to continue with the administrative review. Because there's a lot of things that, in my mind, are technical rather than historic preservation issues. So like the 3 feet setback from the edges of the roof, it's technical, but at the same time, if it's on the rear and they need to make, or on the side that is not visible and they had to make changes, if I can make a comment, maybe the array should be more symmetrical or something like that, I will. But again, we have to make clear that that's still allowable by staff, because the whole idea that I mentioned earlier about discussion of the commission, what can be done administratively, that generated the standards that we have in the rules and provision, the rules and the procedures. It's that we added that ability of staff to be able to review this type of solar panel. So all I'm asking is we need to be consistent.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, good point.
Yeah.
I agree.
You're muted there.
Okay. So, Mark, do you want me to go to next item B?
Mark, you're muted.
Okay. I'm sorry, Beth, I was trying to say, there were homeowners that came in last year, I think before you were on the commission, that said that it was expensive and burdensome for them to have to go through a commission approval process if, for example, they were putting something on the facade of their garage facing their house, that kind of thing. And so we purposely accommodated that kind of request to not require approval where it would easily get approved anyway.
Just curious, what kind of cost would be involved? For the board, what kind of cost
remember was
would the owner incur?
Because they will have to hire someone to do drawings, and it will take more time for them to, get the service, because they have to wait for the commission's decision for things that are not affecting the front elevation. That was the main reason for the request the commission that allow certain projects to be done administratively. And the commission at the end agreed, and we added that additional administrative review procedure in the rules and procedures, and it's in the table.
Okay. I think the pitch project is done. I don't think there's any update, right?
No, I'm sorry. Yes, you're correct. I just wanted to show the commission the final product of all the effort that took place.
I thought it was great.
And the resolution itself, and it was, I understand, adopted by the city council. So I believe that the commission did a great job overall to allow this to happen, support this group or organization in this case, and the aldermen. So I just wanted to show you that, yes, it paid off all the time that was spent in this, and thank you.
Right. I want to thank Mark and Aleka and Carlos, right? That was the group, Mark and Aleka.
And also
Carlos.
Scott, and Scott too. Scott was
And
also
Scott.
involved.
Scott.
Scott, smile,
Thank
Scott.
you. Thank you.
Scott looks tired.
Thank you.
Scott shut his mic off and he's just sitting there probably doing something else.
Was there the retreat? I know we had action items, which I'm not sure I'm.
Actually, we'll talk about, Carlos did ask Susie and myself to, we did look at the projects that you just saw tonight. And so Carlos sent them to us and we reviewed them. Susie put together points, anything that we thought should be added. And I thought the presentations were good and it seemed like we all went through them quickly. And so that's the goal. So that is happening. Thanks to Carlos sending, and we talked about getting them a little earlier. So that's really great. Hopefully doesn't add too much burden to you, Carlos, because it's another step, but, and then, I don't know, because I don't know what I can't remember the other action items. Oh, there was one that Mark had, we talked about this. So I want to bring it up again. We talked about, is there a way, and I know it's COVID time, so maybe not right now, but is there a way that we can meet, we can somehow change maybe the way we, or the way we're possibly thought of by the city council, that somehow there's some other way, there's another meeting where actually, where it isn't, we feel that we talked about getting support from the city council. How can we make that happen? And I don't really want that to go by the wayside, because I think it's important. Mark was mentioning to me, is there a possibility if somebody goes before the council with an appeal, that we're actually on the agenda, as opposed to one of just getting the couple minutes public speaker, position. So I would encourage something that come of that dialogue some way, somehow. And I don't know if now's the right time, because there's other things on people's agenda. So I'm just bringing it up again.
I think, Scott, you had said we would meet with Joanna would be the person to talk to. And I don't know if that's still your opinion. And, obviously if it's the wrong time, it's the wrong time. But maybe just to put a slightly different spin on what Julie said, just to try to explore whether we can have, better communication, up through the chain, so that we're, I mean, I do think right now that, when appeals, for example, go to city council, they have no idea what we're doing and why. And, we're in a bit of an island. And again, we don't want to be a burden or take up people's time when they're overburdened. But again, I think your thought was we would start to talk to Joanna, would be the person to talk to kind of gently explore the subject.
Yeah, we could do that. And there's also, I believe, a liaison from the city council to the plan commission. I believe that's Alderman Fisk still. So it could be another individual to talk to that's on the council.
So do you think, so we're just putting it in your court, Scott and Carlos, or Scott, to sort of, if we can, it'd be nice to have something happen in the next 3 months or something. I mean, just a meeting or something. I think that would be great. So, and then I don't know what else? I don't remember. The action items, I know I wrote them, so you think, but one of them is happening, so that's great. If we can set up a meeting in the next 2 or 3 months with some liaison from the city or something, that would be great. Oh, I know, the website. That was the other one. So I know I made one comment to Carlos when because someone actually, through Society of Architectural Historians, wanted some information on our guidelines, because they're rewriting them in California, and I can't remember where in California, which city, but so I sent them, and then I was looking at the website, and I made some comments to Carlos about some item. I think Jack was on that chain. Elliot, you were on that chain. But I think that was a piece, and I think what Carlos, so I'm going to remind everyone what Carlos had asked everyone to do is maybe to make comments on navigating the website. And I don't know if anyone has done that, but I would encourage you to look at it. And if you have comments, to write them. We had left that, and then someone was going to work with Carlos, but I don't know who was that. Jamie. But I don't really know what, do you really think, do we know what she would do? Like, do we think she had mentioned that, but what is it that we would want her to do, or you would want her to do, Carlos?
I think she offered to go to the website and start searching different topics and see what comes up, and whether or not it's available, or whether or not it prompts to an old, let's say, for instance, application. She was going to work on that, and
I believe she has experience. You know, she has some web design experience also.
Yeah.
Well, that's fine. So I don't know, I can send her a note, but I think it would be good if everyone just looked at the site and made a specific comments as opposed to general comments of like, oh, it's too long, or it's too, just that would be helpful. And I did go back and look at it. Elliot, Jack isn't here, but I still think it is like we had nothing. I think it's good. I think Carlos, you did a really good job. And if you go through it, I think I was trying to tweak some things, but yes, you might have to read it, and that might not be what people want to do, but it still has like all the information is there. So I just want to say I'm patting Elliot on the back, and myself, and Carlos, and Jack, who isn't here.
I think it's, the information on it is great. I think it's more of the bigger problem is tidying up the information on it and making it more user friendly. But people, when people go through it, they might, there may be some things missing or whatever. Also, people should go through it and see. But
yeah,
everybody should. Let me say, I think you should all look at it as it's a way of understanding what the process is. I think the term guidelines is not really what we should be using, because that was a discussion we had early on in the process about because there are some towns around America, because I went and pulled them up, that really identify guidelines and do it as, here's how the commission thinks when they're reviewing your case, meaning these are essentially examples of what are of embodying the standards as a visual device. And
they're like very prescriptive.
Well, they're I don't know if they're prescriptive as much as, when we use certain terminology, which we do in our meetings, what does it really mean, so that somebody who doesn't know much and is coming in for the first time says, now I understand what they mean by massing, by all the things that Mark claims he doesn't understand, but really does.
But now he does.
He does, but he claims he doesn't. But I think, and that was the difference. A lot of towns actually do it in that way, with sort of little drawings and examples of that some of us got at what was that? The other camp, not the one we did this year.
Yeah, it's just
years ago.
Yeah, I mean,
that's the difference. That's what we do, but I don't think it's necessarily bad.
No, can I just say the guidelines are just the three statements of like, what is all of these standards fall into, like, what are we really trying to do, the bigger picture. That's the guideline. It's and then it's really exactly what Elliot said. It's like, how do you navigate through this process? And you have to go back to the standards. And one of the things that we thought was important when you're looking at this again is to understand the history and where they're coming from. So even if you don't want to read it, it's there if you need to find out, why am I even dealing with these standards? Like, where the hell are they coming from? So, but I would suggest that instead of rewriting this whole thing, which took like 2 years and it was really hard to put together, that if you thought that there was an easier way to navigate it, to think about if there's something, again, that never got put into play, something as the sidebar, which is like you could, if you didn't want to read the thing, you could just click and you get like about my place. You get like a series of things that are already buried in there. And maybe that is, but you know, also Carlos does have all the things that you can access at the beginning. So I would just suggest, personally, instead of trying to revamp the whole thing, that you think about if there's some simpler way that is maybe that you can, if you don't want to go through the thing, you just click on the items. That's what was, yeah. So anyway, but.
Well, Carlos, have you had anybody that came to you and said, I can't understand how to find anything, your lousy guidelines aren't helping?
No, I have not, to be honest. People just don't have that opportunity to, but let me, I think one of the things that is a little bit difficult to, I guess, grasp is that you have links to places that, or the National Park Service or the AIA, whatever, we don't have control over those sites. So when you look at the links, we are asking people to be curious and go to different links that perhaps have the information that they're looking for. So when we're talking about, is it confusing? I'm not so sure if it's confusing, because it basically gives the title, and then once you get to that site, it's something that we cannot change.
Well, but if we're saying there it is, the national standards, or, you know, and everybody knows Department of Interior, et cetera, we can't edit that anyway. We're using that just the way we find it.
That's what I'm saying. That's why we cannot change. So I'm not sure when we're talking about this confusing. I don't think it's confusing if you're going to a website that is clearly saying this is the National Park Service standards for.
Right. I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. I don't actually understand some of the comments. So maybe I'm just saying, because it's getting late, I'm just asking people, like, if you really have specific comments, not like the general thing, because it's like, well, it's confusing. And then it's like, well, what's confusing? Because you have to read it, or because the information's in the wrong place. It'd be very helpful if you could be specific, I think. Just saying, you know, be specific in how you can, what?
We're not the ones that are confused. So it's hard for us to look at it. Well, maybe Ken is, he's smiling, but
he's eating something.
But in general, you know, if we're either too close to the woods or whatever it is, but we're not the ones having the difficulty. So that's the first step. The next step is to find out, you know, if you took a random sample of Evanstonians and said, go to the site and look up your house or do something with it. If you've got a landmark home, find out whether they have a problem, because we're not having that problem. So, you know, we could say it's perfect.
I mean, just to kind of close, I guess, the conversation here, what I found the email that Jamie sent me says, I would like the group to take another look at the website and develop their priorities comments. I'll email you and Julie about the best way to keep that moving forward.
You've only got
again, yeah, that was Jamie today at 7:55 p.m.
Well, but she's a commissioner too. That doesn't count. Sorry, bias.
Hey, I just, okay, so I just want to say, I think that the package of all the documents that we saw, all of the were really good, and they were cohesive, and we were able to look at them. And so that is great. And we know in the past it hasn't always been as tight. So I think, you know, we're all like working together to make, Carlos, thank you so much, but it's true to sort of move this on. And so people, if, you know, I've had comments, I think when I've had comments from the public, there's specific sites that everyone should be completely familiar with, like About My Place, that you can tell someone right away. Did you check it? Do you know if your house is landmark in a historic district? There are things that all of us as commissioners should be really familiar with on the website, so that you can help people who are trying to navigate through this process, which you know, if you're not an architect, you don't hire someone, it is difficult. So anyway, but I agree with Carlos. Send your comments.
So for next month, who will be the reviewers for next month?
You're doing it again?
I mean, if you guys want to do it again, that'd be great. I
We
mean,
love it.
I think
I love relying on Susie.
I agree with you. It was a much more complete packet than in the past.
How much time did you spend on each one?
Probably no more than 10 minutes.
Yeah.
It was really actually fun just to go over them. And I think Susie did a great job just giving us a little bit of a start with it. And
the applicant's part of it, or just the three of you?
it was, Scott joined us a little bit later. And I think it worked very well. And when I sent the comments to the applicants, they were grateful.
I think it's great. You guys did a great job. I think it worked well
Fire.
for everybody.
Julie, you'll continue to do this after November, you know. She muted
I just
her.
have to say this. I say July, August, September, October, November.
There's no August meeting, is there, Carlos?
Yeah, we have a 11th of August is the meeting.
Oh, okay. You know, Carlos keeps fading. I feel like I'm watching Star Trek and somebody's eating him up.
Yeah,
There he
I'm
goes.
trying to, sorry about that. I'm having terrible
Or
communication.
the Joker, I'm not sure which. Very
All right,
It's
should
like
we,
psychedelic. Okay, what's next?
are you ready to adjourn? Anything else?
I just want to thank Scott for navigating us through the meeting.
Yeah. Good job, Scott.
I also want to thank everybody for all doing our due diligence in this COVID times.
Yeah. I had a Zoom meeting that began at 9. I'll be leaving you guys. Hurry, quick, make the motion.
Okay, who wants to move to adjourn?
California.
I make a motion that we move to adjourn this meeting.
Elliot, second. No roll call. Everybody's unanimously in favor.
Hey, yay! Yay!
Roll call.
Roll call, yes.
Aye.
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 All right, I heard everybody in favor.
Okay, bye.
Bye-bye. Good night.